Okay, at this point, I want to hand things over to our guest speaker today, Ken Hendricks. He's going to be talking about the EV-friendly certification program. So go ahead, Ken. Feel free to share your screen if you like.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm assuming that you can hear me. Okay,
Yep, all good.
good. Everything's working perfect. I think after 2.5 years, we have this Zoom thing finally down, huh? Just a quick introduction to who I am and who my organization is. For those that don't know me, as Michael introduced me, my name is Ken Hendricks. I'm with an organization called the Automotive Retailers Association. We've been around in BC for a long time. In fact, we've just celebrated our 70th anniversary. And what we represent in the automotive industry is what we call the aftermarket industry, or you could refer to the aftermarket services industry, or an even simpler way of looking at us is the used industry. We do not represent the manufacturers or the new vehicle. So we're not concerned with the new vehicle, but anything that happens throughout the life cycle of that vehicle, that is what the Automotive Retailers Association represents. And that's anything within that life cycle, collision repair, mechanical repair. At some point, you're going to have that car towed. You're going to need a glass repair. And ultimately, that vehicle is going to need to be recycled. And so all these subsectors come under the body of the ARA. And that's who the organization I am with. Now, how I got personally, and then of course dragged my association into the whole electric vehicle space, was really only about 4 or 5 years ago. Up until then, we certainly knew about them, but we weren't acting on it. And nobody was talking about it. And to me, this presented both an opportunity and a problem. And I think the challenge was going to be that if we were really going to grow this EV market, we needed inclusion. We needed inclusion from all of industry, but all of the citizens of British Columbia and across Canada as well. It couldn't be just a domain of an exclusive. And this is where the aftermarket industry or the used is really going to play a prominent role. So we took our case to the Ministry of Energy and Mines and Low Carbon Innovation. They listened and they listened to what we had to say and the project that we laid out. And they supported us in the development of this. And the outcome was what we call EV friendly. And EV friendly is just that. It was about creating an environment for the owner and operator of that EV that he could find a friendly and sustainable infrastructure to service their vehicles. And we knew that this was the path to building consumer confidence ultimately. Again, nice when you buy a brand new car, it's shiny and new, and I love it. But it's a much different experience if you're buying an out of warranty 8 or 10-year-old vehicle. So we definitely knew that we needed to do something. So we began a program of which we were starting to provide information and resources, primarily out to the aftermarket industry, but also out to consumers as well, because a big part of our program is to educate consumers and really to elevate them as well. When we first began, I think the questions we were answering were very basic, but we're starting to find out that consumers are starting to become a lot more savvy. So as we develop the program, even though we're speaking to industry, we invite consumers to come along. I'll quickly just share my screen and this will stop other screen. Yeah, so I think I just hit yes yes, and you can see my screen, I'm going to assume. And this is what we call the EV friendly website. And it's sort of from here that you can find everything that you need to know about the program in EV friendly. And I'll just take a quick walk through it. So you instantly land on the home page and you'll notice it immediately. It goes either you are a consumer or your industry, and from there you navigate through. And I'll get to those in just a minute. It gives a lot more information, basically the same things you find on the sub pages. And at the end, you'll probably find our social media sites. Now, unlike Michael and Emotive, we don't go out to the province physically. We simply don't have the resources to be able to do that. It's nice to shake hands and meet people in person, but primary means of communicating this program is digitally. We're doing this in a number of ways. One is through our Facebook channel. If you haven't seen it, please come on to our channel, like and subscribe. We throw out a whole lot of interesting news articles, podcast clips. I'll get to that in a minute. Information about training for industry. It's just a whole host of information that we update, not daily, but once every 2 days. And that page is really growing. Another channel that is really growing now is our YouTube channel. And primarily this is where we will put out resources and videos and our podcasts. And these have been really starting to grow. Our latest podcast is tackling EV myths. On our social media channels, we get a lot of comments, a lot of bizarre comments. And of course, we attempted to answer some of those because the skepticism about EVs is growing. And I think it's just people asking questions and needing good, honest answers. And that's what we're trying to provide. Again, it's about the consumer confidence. Maybe they have, like in this one, they're asking a lot about the batteries and the end of life. And we hear things, they're all ending up in landfills. Well, no, they're not. However, we need to address that. We can't dismiss it. And so that's some of the things that we're trying to do in our communication. Now, for industry, we've developed a sort of a twofold program or two-tier program called the EV Friendly Certification for Businesses. And it is for the primary subsectors that are involved in the aftermarket service of EVs. And that's going to be the used car dealers, of course. Again, we don't represent those new car dealers. The mechanical repair, the collision repair, the towing, and ultimately the recycling. And these are all separate programs, but they all involve the foundation of training. And at that time, there was no training available. BCIT had just come out with their EV technicians course, but there was nothing available for towing and recovery or for the collision repair or for the recycling or even for the used car dealers. And the reason we did this is because there was an assumption, I could stop sharing my screen here. There was an assumption out there that these are just another vehicle and that we were going to be able to serve them just like we would any other vehicle. Completely false. The gasoline engine has been around for 100 years and the infrastructure is based around that. And so we can't assume that a new technology coming in, that the skills and the equipment now that businesses have can service them. And so that is going to take a fundamental transformation. And that is basically our mission statement, is to supply tools and resources out to industry, including the training. And we are just sort of wrapping up the tail end of building and constructing the project. Now it's just out there marketing and promoting and getting people involved in the discussion. One of our secrets to building this was what we called the ZEV Alliance. And it became clear to me that other organizations and people were going to be out there seeking some answers. And I thought the best way to build this is let's get everyone in a room and let's start talking. Let's get everyone on the same page. So next steps for the EV Friendly program is going to be building this out nationally. I've been getting so many calls from other provinces and organizations, and they probably heard of me through our Facebook and YouTube channels. They say, man, BC is so far out ahead of this. We need to learn from you. You know, what can we do and how can you help? So it only makes sense now that the EV Friendly program is taken onto a national level. And then another thing I think we want to start building towards is a fleet support. Now with government and a lot of municipalities are transitioning their fleets from gas power to electric. I think there's a real opportunity for EV Friendly to play in helping to educate on the employees on some of those basics. Again, it's just assumed that it's just another car, but it's not. If you're operating a fleet and you're assigning a new Tesla or Leaf or whatever to an employee, they have to have a deeper awareness and understanding of this vehicle, because it could get them into trouble I'm going to give you two examples of something recently that happened. This was a Tesla incident in West Vancouver, where the fellow was just driving down, normal day. He noticed some smoke coming from underneath and some sounds. And it quickly became apparent that his battery was catching fire. Scary experience for the guy. He quickly pulls in a parking lot to get out. Battery shuts down. He can't open his door. He's in a panic. So he kicks in the window and has to crawl out. And seconds later, the Tesla erupts in flames. Now, I don't want to scare anyone because that's actually a rare occurrence. But little did he know that there's just a latch in the Tesla that he could pull up, and it overrides the electronic systems. That little basic information is critical for your employees or anyone operating a fleet to understand. Another quick example is in cold weather up north and how that's going to impact your range. And these are just a lot of things that we need to be aware of. So we're certainly interested in working with any partners, municipalities or other organizations to expand this awareness and expand the program. That's pretty much a quick synopsis of the program. I certainly invite any questions now if you have them, or Michael could give you my contact and we could have a one-on-one conversation as well.